Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. What I want to do today is to examine the second verse of the Fatiha, which is الرحمن الرحيم, which we can translate to the beneficent, the merciful. If you recall, in the video in which we examined the Basmala, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we had a look at what some of the scholars mentioned, what their opinion was on the meaning of Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. However, because of the depth and complexity of the Arabic language, various facets of meaning can be extracted from the very same word. So, in fact, we find that different scholars have had different opinions of what these words could mean. So first, let's do a recap of what we said. The meanings of these two names were, and then we'll explore what other scholars of Quranic exegesis had to say about these two names. So if you remember, both of these words return to the meaning of Ar-Rahma, which is mercy. And then we ask the question, if both of these words return to the meaning of mercy, then how are these two different from each other? Well, basically, some of the ulama mentioned that the name of Allah Ar-Rahman represents Allah being merciful to all of creation, while the name Ar-Rahim represents Allah's mercy, which is specific and special to the believers. So this was one of the meanings which we found the scholars of Quranic exegesis extracted from these two words. So let's have a look at another opinion, and this opinion approaches the subject from the concept of word forms. So let's try to take some examples to understand this. So the name Ar-Rahman is on a word form which has an attached alif noon at the end of the word. So let's examine some other words which are on the same pattern. So examples include the word Ghadban. This means angry. We also have Atshan, which means thirsty. We also have Jawa'an, which means hungry. So what is the common meaning between these forms? Because this is the claim which the scholars of Arabic language made. They saw that all of these words share in this particular pattern. So do they then share in a particular facet of their meaning? And indeed, they examined all of these words that are on this form, and they concluded that words that end on this alif noon, this form, this particular word pattern, focus on the magnitude and the immensity of this particular meaning. So for example, when I describe someone as being Ghadban, this means that somebody is angry, but in fact he's full of anger. The immensity of this anger fills him. The same with Atshan. He's thirsty, but this thirst fills him. It is immense within him. And similar with the meaning of Jaw'an, he is full of hunger. So then, the scholars of Quranic exegesis made an analogy, and they carried this facet of meaning to the name of Allah, Ar-Rahman. So they said that Allah is all merciful, but at the same time, the name Ar-Rahman focuses on the immensity and limitless nature of Allah's mercy. So this is what we can understand from the name Ar-Rahman. So what about the name of Allah, Ar-Rahim? It relates to mercy. Allah is merciful, but what facet of meaning does it focus on? Well, let's examine other words on this particular form. Just let me wipe this off. So the name Ar-Rahim is on a pattern in which we have the root letters, the Ra, the Ha, the Mim, separated by a Ya in the middle. So let's take some examples of words. We have the word Kabir, which means big. We also have the word صغير, which means small. We also have the word طويل, which means tall or long. So notice all of these words share in the ya. They share in this particular ya on this pattern, on this word pattern. So what facet of meaning do these words share in? Well, the scholars of the Arabic language mention that this particular form places an emphasis on the permanence of a particular attribute. So if you describe someone as being kabir, he is big, but he's permanent in this attribute of size. The same with saghir, he is small, but he's also permanent in this attribute of being small in size. The same with tawil. Tawil represents somebody being long or an object being, someone being tall or an object being long, but with a focus on this attribute being permanent in the object of the person. So then the ulama of tafsir make the analogy, and they say that, and they conclude that the meaning of the name of Allah Ar-Rahim represents Allah being merciful, but with a focus on the permanence and the constancy of Allah's mercy. So this is a different perspective upon which we can understand the two names of Allah, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. And if you reflect upon this, we can come to the conclusion that it's a very interesting juxtaposition of meaning, immensity as well as constancy, because within creation, these two are usually not accompanied by each other. When something is immense, when something is of a great magnitude, it usually doesn't last for a very long time. It's like if you take the example of a supernova explodes. However, it's a great burst of energy, an immense burst of energy of great magnitude. But what do we find? It doesn't last for a very long time. It eventually dies down. So we find that the juxtaposition of magnitude and constancy is not something common in creation. It's not something which represents creation. However, we know that Allah is different. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing like the likeness of Him. So we find that Allah's mercy is great in magnitude. It is immense. However, it is also constant and permanent. And we see this in many things. We see this in Allah's mercy, in which He forgives us, no matter how much we sin. We see this in Allah's in'am, in His great blessings which He has given us, the blessing of consciousness and intellect so that we may know Him, the blessing of hidayah, of guidance so that we know how to we are able to worship Him, and the blessing of having al-khidlan, or being not forsaken, al-khidlan being taken away from us so that we may actually worship Allah as Muslims and as believers. So I hope that you found benefit in this video, in which we've examined another facet of understanding, another perspective of understanding the names of Allah Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. So once again, I request that you share this if you found benefit in this, so that others may benefit. And Jazakumullahu khair. And so until next time, ma'as salama.